Hello, everyone. Good morning. We are live with Mama Tribe, and I am solo my Mama Tribe this morning because Miss OG, Erin Esteves, has lost her voice. But I hope she's watching. She should be watching. And actually, I'm going to put the Q&A app up right now just in case she has any comments or questions throughout the show this morning. I want to introduce right now Dr. Philip Goscienski. He is joining us on live this morning. Hi, Dr. G. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Really excited to have you on the Hangout. I'm so glad that we got you all set up with Google and able to do the Hangouts with us. This is just like really cool to have you here. So how are you enjoying our Hangout so far? Is it pretty cool?
Yeah, they're fun. It's great to participate in this.
Yeah, good. Well, I know
I'm glad to reach an audience that I really hungry for.
awesome. Yeah, I know that I've heard you speak I think 3 times now at Suzanne Reese's screenings. The first one was breast milk, and then birth story, and then recently microbirth. And the uh, the knowledge that you have and the experience that you have, I've always felt like everybody needs to know. And so, that's what part of the Mama Tribe is just we want to share the knowledge that we come across with everyone else. And the knowledge that you have is definitely one of those um, type of aha moment, type people. You give us that information and that support so that we can go through our journey of motherhood. So that's just the way that I felt. I know Erin has felt that way. And obviously, Suzanne Reese, of course, she knows that your expertise and your knowledge and the way that you present the information just needs to be out there for other people. So we're bringing you all Dr. G on the live with Mama Tribe this morning, and we're going to get into a little more detail about um, you, Dr. G, and just what you do these days, because you are a retired pediatrician, and you were in practice for 60 years.
Well, not quite. I've been involved with medicine for 60 years. I got my first job in the hospital during my treatment years, 60 years, and I practiced pediatrics for 35 years.
Okay.
And after that, at UCSD Medical School, altogether I taught there for about 40 years. And during the last 12, I taught a course for first-year medical students called the doctor-patient relationship. And so they were getting bedside manner from the first week of medical school. And I've had so many people tell me, I wish my doctor had taken your course. But it's really something that a lot of medical schools are doing now because they realize how important it is, not only for doctors to be able to communicate with patients, but for doctors to listen to patients. And that's something that we stressed all through that course, was that doctors need to take the time. It's to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, that's we were chatting a little bit in the green room before we went live about how I have had experience in the medical field. And these days I mean, I hate to speculate why, but the doctors are scheduling patients like with 5 minutes of time to be able to see them, to either have as many patients as they can seen, or I don't know what it is, but it's just not enough time these days to really talk to your doctor and get to know your doctor. And gosh, things have just changed.
Well, that's true, MJ. One of the problems, of course, is that it's driven by the finances. because physicians tend not to be compensated for counseling. And you mentioned my passion for breastfeeding, and that's a perfect example. There is incredible underestimation of how important breast milk is and how different it is from formula. And yet most obstetricians don't discuss this much with their patients, and most pediatricians don't talk about it very much either. In both cases, one of the reasons is because this isn't taught in medical school. Yeah. And it's got to be part of the curriculum because it has an incredible impact on the health of every single individual.
Exactly. I know that's, I love you for many reasons, but one of the reasons definitely is your passion for breastfeeding, as I am very passionate for breastfeeding. And I know I heard you say recently that you wish you could make breastfeeding mandatory, which, oh my gosh, that would be so awesome. And to have the support for moms too, to, go into a doctor's office and let them know that I'm having difficulties and not just be given another option besides continuing breastfeeding.
Right.
Like you said, it's not part of the curriculum, which is crazy because as a pediatrician, you are taking care of a child, and my gosh, breast milk is like the most amazing thing. I came across a website that described what was in breast milk versus what is in formula. And don't get me wrong, we are not bashing formula at all. It has saved plenty of children's lives, I'm sure. But it's just amazing the amount of things that are in breast milk. That the makeup of breast milk is just like it's awesome. So, yeah, I love that attitude that you have about it, and I just wish that more pediatricians out right now that are practicing would have that attitude because we have a lot of moms who are new moms, and when they go to their pediatrician looking for that support, and they don't get it. And luckily, we're trying to build a mama tribe within Facebook and other online social media so that moms can go. I went to my pediatrician today and this is what he or she said. And, is this correct? And then, we can try and educate them about, the continuing to breastfeed despite problems, because I honestly have not met a woman who has not had an issue breastfeeding. It's a very hard thing to do, but when you have support, you can hopefully get the tools to be able to have a successful relationship. So I know that.
Well, that's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, something you mentioned, the support, that's so important. There have been some studies done on women who are having difficulty with breastfeeding to the point where they are about to give up. But if they receive the right kind of counseling, it turns out that 60 to 80% of them are then able to continue to breastfeed without the problems that made them want to stop in the first place. And part of the challenge that we're facing is that today's grandmothers were having babies at a time when breastfeeding was looked down upon and formula was very heavily promoted. And as a result, today's grandmothers aren't really very good counselors because they haven't been through that process themselves. They haven't handled the problems, they haven't found the solutions, and therefore they can't counsel their daughters and granddaughters on what to do.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And even, going back to my grandma, so would be my son's great grandma, she didn't even get to bond with her children. It was at a time where they actually knocked the moms out to deliver the babies. And so there was never that bonding time, especially for breastfeeding. And even my mom, I know that we were whisked away in the very beginning because of all the things that they thought that they needed to do, give you a bath, clean you up, give you all your shots and do everything. And so, yeah, it's just a different time now. We're trying to get back to, to that time that, that breastfeeding isn't looked down upon, and that, and that's a whole nother subject that we could get into about, the attitude that people have about breastfeeding these days. But yeah, it's very interesting when you think about the generations in the past who have, had their experiences with delivering their babies, and then the aftermath with breastfeeding. It's no wonder that they
Mhm.
they don't have that passion. I know Erin is putting up some comments, and then she also is saying good morning to you, Dr. G. So
Good morning, Aaron.
yeah. Now she says, let's see here. Is there one thing that should be a red flag for parents when finding a pediatrician? That's a good question. You want to answer that for us?
I suppose, in a sense, the red flag might be negative comments from other mothers who have been to that pediatrician. When people ask me how to find a doctor, I routinely advise talk to your friends, people whose judgment you trust, and ask them about the doctors that they go to. Because every one of us has had physicians that we either love or those that we would never recommend to someone else. And it's often just in the way they deal with patients. Sometimes it's their office staff. Sometimes it's not even the doctor's fault. But you can kind of get around the office staff problem. But if the physician is the kind of person who won't listen to you, won't address your issues, and won't give you time, that's the kind of physician that you could probably find a substitute for.
That's awesome advice. And, I think that's one of the things that a lot of the people that we're surrounded with, the mamas that we know, is that we're kind of parenting on instinct these days. We don't know necessarily why we feel the way that we do, because it wasn't the way that we grew up. So thankfully, these moms are coming to other moms and saying, like, I don't feel so right about this, and getting other suggestions. So that's great advice. I love that.
I'd like to give another piece of advice in terms of finding a pediatrician, and that is to find a pediatrician who is a parent, a pediatrician who is a mom or a dad. And I'm always amazed by pediatricians who are single or who have never had children, because some of them have great insights into children's problems. But my feeling is that you need to find someone who can relate to your specific problems. And any pediatrician who has had a couple of kids has probably gone through all the usual stuff and can help you solve some of your problems as well.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that is great advice, because when before I had my son, I actually did interview pediatricians. My midwife had suggested that and gave me a nice list. So that way you can actually ask that question and figure it out, because that's a really good thing. That's a really good point. Prior to myself having children, and I grew up in a huge family, and I had lots of nieces and nephews. So I thought, oh my gosh, I know everything that I need to know about parenting. And once you have your own, it's so different. And the way I thought I was going to parent, because of the way that I was parented and the way I saw all my brothers and sisters parent, wasn't necessarily how I felt after I actually had my baby in my arms. So
Exactly.
that's great advice as well. So I definitely want to have you talk a little bit about stoneagedoc.com, because you have a great website there with tons of information. And just if you can tell us a little bit about, like what your days are like these days, what you're doing with all this experience and knowledge that you have to share with other people, maybe like who's scheduling you to come out, besides Mama Tribe, of course,
Mm-hmm.
to get your knowledge.
Well, I started on this concept of the Stone Age doc about 20 years ago, because I accidentally stumbled upon an interesting book that described the fact that our body chemistry is a couple million years old. And it's not adapted to things like cheeseburgers, French fries, lazy boy chairs, and lack of exercise, etc. And the more I explore this concept, which is really a simple concept, the more I realize that this is the sort of thing that's being ignored these days. And our lifestyle has changed so incredibly in the last century, and especially in the last few years. And the evidence of that is the huge rates of obesity that we're seeing and the huge rates of childhood type 2 diabetes. And something I point out that back in the Stone Age, it was not possible to survive and be obese, because if you did, you'd be some animal's lunch. And Stone Agers, just as modern Stone Agers, that we refer to as hunter-gatherers, are never obese. And if we look at them in their native habitat, we find that they have no high blood pressure, they have no heart disease, they have no type 2 diabetes, and even those who reach the age of 60 or 70, and some of them don't have osteoporosis. And I make the point that osteoporosis has nothing to do with aging, because the oldest Stone Agers, which we know from fossil studies, and the oldest hunter-gatherers have no osteoporosis. And all that translates into following a pattern in which we can maintain good health, taking advantage of all the advances that we have. I mean, think about this for a minute. If back in the Stone Age there was no coronary artery disease, which now kills a third of Americans, if there was no type 2 diabetes, which now affects 10% of Americans, if there were no strokes back then and no osteoporosis, how long could Stone Agers have lived if they had had good plumbing and antibiotics? Just as two examples. And the answer is they would have lived decades longer, because what happened, they died because they either knocked themselves off, knocked each other off, or they succumbed to infection. Now, when it comes to that site, I want to point out that I think one of the most valuable things on that site is the publication of the archives of my weekly medical column. I write a column called Stone Age Doc. And next month will be the 10th anniversary of that weekly column. And so I have archived about 500 articles on that site. They're all easy reading. I try to make them a little bit humorous, largely because people can remember things that are attached to some humor. And I try to address things that are very common, simple to do, without making huge changes in a person's lifestyle. And I try to convey that same concept in the lectures that I give around the county. I give an average of about 2 lectures a week. And they are mostly to senior groups and service organizations. I teach at Cal State San Marcos in their Osher senior study program. And I teach for Oasis, which is also a senior learning program. Okay. And each of those has several campuses. So, and their information is available on their website, so you can find out what the various presentations are like. And there are many others. As a matter of fact, Oasis, I just learned yesterday, gives something like 400 separate courses. And although that program is designed for people 50 and over, they don't check your ID when you sign up. And you can probably get into any one of their programs if you think it's appropriate for your lifestyle. I mean, there are things that we talk about that are specifically helpful to the older population, but many of them can be relatable to any age, and especially when we talk about things like how to prevent dementia. I have a talk called 10 Ways to Prevent Cancer, about diabetes, and the best results in those steps that people take to prevent dementia or cancer are those steps that are taken very early in life. Okay. Because by the time you're 60, you're already on a trajectory for these problems. And although you can modify the occurrence of these diseases, you're past the point where you can almost eliminate them entirely.
Wow, awesome. So you talked about that on your site, you for free, we can access these articles that you've written for, you're coming up on the 10-year anniversary. Is that right?
That's right. There's nothing to sell on the site, except I mentioned the book. The book is in its actually third printing now, and that's almost exhausted. So I will not be coming up with another edition of the book. However, all of the other information is free, and you can just scroll down, look at those things by title, and then click on what appeals to you, and the article will pop up. It's easily printable, and if people want to take that and pass it on to their friends, that's fine.
Awesome.
My goal in life is to change the trajectory that our young people are on, and we have to do that one person at a time.
Yeah. And I am right there with you. That's why we are just, we're trying to pick topics that are really relevant for our audience. And, I'm passionate about getting your expertise and your experience out there. I think that it's something that will, I think a lot of our viewers and the people that are in our Mama Tribe just would, you know, be at ease hearing you talk, and will feel a little more normal hearing the things that you say, because it's what we're trying to do, and the things that we're trying to make, we're kind of out there with our ideas, according to mainstream society. So it's nice to find like-minded people and doctors. Oh my gosh, that's like a dime a dozen. And so just to reiterate, so on campus at Cal State San Marcos, it's the OSHA.
Osher, Osher.
OSHER. Okay.
Yeah. Bernard Osher is a philanthropist, billionaire, lives on the East Coast, and he has endowed a number of organizations, especially colleges and universities, to conduct these study programs for seniors.
Okay.
And
So
they're great audiences. I mean, they're people, number one, who want to be there, not because their parents are paying for them to be there.
yeah.
And number two, they are often professional people. Some of the people in my classes have been themselves college professors, and they are eager to learn, and they're a great audience.
Okay, awesome. That's good to know. I know you said it's for seniors, but if they don't check IDs, then maybe if one of us is interested, we can.
Yeah, I don't think they check IDs, but you can always fudge. We've all done that one time or another, and when it came to fudging about our age, so why not?
Yeah.
For good reason.
I'm hitting 40. Do I look it? No.
Well, I just hit 80, so yeah, you got a ways to catch up.
Oh my gosh. And you do not act or look like 80, Dr. G, at all.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Well, I mean, just like you say, the lifestyle that we have these days, I mean, you probably live what you preach, thankfully, so your life expectancy is probably a lot longer than somebody who didn't do all the things that you do, or, follow all the things that you know. Um, so I know we're winding down here, but I just want to talk a small amount of the recent hangout that we did. Erin, OG Mamacita, my partner in crime, had you on to talk about vaccinations, the tragedies and the triumphs, and so that is able to be viewed on, if you are on Google, you can find Mama Tribe Network, and you can find the Mama Tribe After Dark, and you'll find the link for that show, or you can find it on YouTube. It'll be under Erin Estevez's YouTube channel. So, but if you just look up vaccinations, triumphs and tragedies, then you'll probably get linked to that video. But that was a really awesome hangout, very informative. And I know that, if Erin were here, she'd be thanking you for doing it. But just want to promote that to our viewers, and to anybody who wasn't able to look at it. It's an awesome hangout. think it's about an hour long, maybe a little longer, but if you can watch it, it's got great information.
MJ, I'd like to point out too that if anyone goes to my site, they can see my contact information.
Okay.
And I'm anxious to hear from people for their thoughts on or questions about immunizations, especially, and certainly about lifestyle for kids. So I don't have any problem responding to email. I don't get so overloaded that I can't handle them.
Okay.
So anybody who sees this video is welcome to contact me at stoneagedoc.com,
Okay.
and I'd be happy to answer any questions that they might have.
That's so awesome. We don't have access these days to our doctors like that. So I would definitely take advantage of that. So yeah, it's stoneagedoc.com, and then you'll be able to access Dr. G's email from there and shoot him a question. We also are going to have a follow-up show to basically just discuss the previous hangout that Erin did. Her show is called Mama Talks, and so we'll have another Mama Talks show. I believe it's June the 12th, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's when we have it. And so, either any way that you can, either through Dr. G or our social media, on Facebook or Google Plus, hit us, watch the show, get us your questions, and then we'll be able to put those on the June 12th show, Mama Talks, as we revisit the previous vaccination show. And who knows, if you're on Google Plus and you actually want to be on the Hangout with us, we could probably make that happen so that you'll be live with us and Dr. G, and you can ask your question live. So before we go to, I just want to promote my show, All Things Crunchy, that I'm going to have with you, Dr. G. We're going to be talking about on June the 5th. We'll be talking about probiotics and breastfeeding, and I'm really excited to talk about this with you. I know we'll have another PowerPoint presentation that we'll have along with you talking, and I don't want to give too much away, but if I don't know if you want to share a little bit of something, kind of a tease for that show of maybe something that we might learn. I don't know. Do you want to share anything?
Well, the title of that talk, MJ, is Breast Milk, It's Alive. And
Yes.
the contrast between breast milk and formula is summed up in those two words. Breast milk is alive, formula is not. Now, granted, formula can be life-saving. I don't challenge that at all. But I would love to see people take more advantage of the best food on the planet for babies, which is breast milk.
Yeah, definitely. And for myself, I mean, I actually had a low supply in the beginning, but I'm actually still nursing my almost 4-year-old. So it's kind of crazy that I had a low supply, but because I did have a low supply, I was able to be connected with other mamas to use donor breast milk. So I did a lot of milk sharing, and I'm just so grateful and thankful. And I know that some people are not always comfortable with milk sharing, but anybody can always try to contact me about that. I'd love to share my story, and just give more education about milk sharing. Because if you're like me, where you weren't able to produce the whole amount that your baby needed, there's I didn't know until I had him, that there was an option for donor breast milk, and I'm so thankful. And also just thankful because the moms that have donated to me are my best friends now. We've gotten very close, and so breast milk is amazing in more ways than one in my life, because of the relationships that I have now, because of being able to have a community, a village, a tribe that came to my rescue when I needed it. So So I'm super excited about that episode, and thank you so much for taking your time out this morning to join us. And like I said, I'm really excited about the fact that we have you up on Google. We're able to have these video chats and talk to you. Of course, it's always awesome to see you in person and see you when you do these talks out there in San Diego. At the screenings is where I've seen you, but heck, I'm gonna try and act like a senior and maybe join you at Cal State San Marcos sometime soon.
Okay, I need my contact list, and MJ.
Okay, awesome, excellent. Well, if there's anything else that you wanted to chat about this morning, we could do that, or I think we're gonna hit the stop broadcast button here and have and start the rest of our day. What do you think?
I think that's fine. I don't have anything else. I would just urge anyone who sees this video to keep a notepad handy, so when a question pops into their mind, they can write it down and then not have forgotten it by the time it's the show comes out. It's been a pleasure to be with you, MJ.
Oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure, and thank you so much. That is like so awesome to have yourself available to our community, our viewers. I would take that opportunity if I didn't have access to you this way. I would be emailing you and looking on your site. So check out stoneagedoc.com. We've got the upcoming show on June the 5th with Dr. Goscienski, and we'll have more shows definitely in the future. So it was lovely hanging out with you this morning, Dr. G. And you can stay on the hangout after I hit stop broadcast, and we'll just say our goodbyes in the green room.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Goodbye, guys.